Hey, this is Matt once again. Well, back to another video, the paid request, this time for B McB. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, it could be a review, a re-review, a topic, a reaction, a commentary, episode, ranking list, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box under each of these videos, including this one. This is of the 2011 film Priest. Now, this is a film I remember coming out, but at the same time I didn't remember coming out. It's based on a Korean comic, I believe, that I've never read. It's from a director named Scott Stewart, who, I don't know what else he's done, but before this he had done a film called Legion, which also starred Paul Bettany, which was also an action film that, kind of came and went. For some reason I remember not minding Legion, but at the same time I remember it had too slow of a build and not enough action. Maybe because the concept is like, oh, it's angels, but it's like the Terminator, because it was Paul Bettany as his angel trying to protect this humans at this truck stop, and then there's this baby, and they want to kill it because this baby will lead to help in the future. I'm like, where the hell is the T-800, T-1000 coming out? Maybe the idea was just so strange, I haven't seen that in a while. But this one, it came and went. It came out in theaters PG-13. Then when it came out on DVD, Blu-ray, there's PG-13 and there's an unrated cut. It's 87 minutes long, so at the very least, it's not too long of a movie. I'll give it that. And it's not one of the worst films I've seen. Paul Bettany, I think, does what he can in the lead role. I like to think that if you're more into the underworld movies, for a split second my brain was going to say, if you're into underworld movies, underwear, that'd be other people. Maybe you'd be more into this. I'm not big in the underworld type of that photography and that type of action. There's always exceptions to the rule. Absolutely, always exceptions. Even underworld, I remember not minding. Like the first one I don't hate, but I didn't love it. The second one I remember liking it a bit more. I remember liking, I think, the fourth one, Awakening. Enjoying it. Might have been that or the second one my favorite. But see, I'm struggling because that's not usually what I go towards in terms of action or spectacle. Very much the action scenes here in that underworld, bit of Matrix type. These are in the bit where someone does this and a blade goes like this. Maggie Q is in the film. She's jumping off, doing kicks as if she's Trinity. There's a piece of an action scene where Paul Bettany and Maggie Q are working together, and there's this big monster, looks like a reject from Resident Evil or Doom, and she throws these rocks. So Paul Bettany she throws him stepping stones, and he jumps up. The thing. If that kind of action scene is your kind of bag, maybe this is more a movie for you. And I don't even know if this is a rant, because I didn't really like it, but at the same time, you gotta understand, I've seen disaster movie, I've seen epic movie, I've seen Neil Breen's movies, I've seen a film called The Wet Ones. Since 2011 to now, I've seen a lot of shit. Even though this film's making me allergic, apparently, it's making my nose itch. But for me personally, I would not call this a good film. It might be a time waster at best, I can understand, but at the same time, I appreciate that it was short enough. If you take the end credits out, it's only an hour and 20 minutes. I think Paul Bettany is trying with what he's given. This is when they try to make him a lead. Didn't really work out, and then he would get his chance as Vision, and the Marvel films, with what little they did with that character in those films, let's be honest. And because of his short running time, again, there's like 7 minutes of credits. It's only an hour 20 minutes. I have to assume a lot of stuff was cut out of this. How much of it, I don't know. If there wasn't, I would be very surprised. I mean, this is a movie where the character names, the setup before I get to that, it's a post-apocalyptic, it's a bit of a vampire story where and it's done in the Samurai Jack style animation, where the vampires and the humans, and vampires are one species, the humans are another, they have a battle, and it seems like the humans, they don't know what to do, but they're trying to hold the fort. They have these folks, priests, which they say have superpowers. I don't remember how they got those. I just assumed, okay, they're really skilled. But you see them do this stuff, though, it does feel like they got Matrix-type superpowers. I don't remember if they said how they got these superpowers. I'm trying to remember if there's some kind of genetic thing or something else that... I apologize. You feel free to let me know. But how did they become superpowered? And they were able to stop the vampires. The few that were left were put into this sort of prison camp type of thing. And then the city now, at this present time, looks like Blade Runner. Definitely looks like Blade Runner. Paul Bettany plays a priest called Priest. Yeah, he's literally called Priest. A priest called Priest. When he meets up with Maggie Q, she's called Priestess. Carl Urban's in the film, who will later be in Doom, which I like. Well, actually, before this, he was in Doom. So, before he was in Doom, which I liked, just a year after this, he'd be in Dread, which I think someone mentioned that anniversary of just came out, 10-year anniversary. Dread rocks. Dread is much better than this movie. Love Dread. Saw it on the theater in 3D. I was one of the few in the theater. That was the only thing bummed out, is that I was one of the only few in the theater. But what can you do? And Paul Bettany, as this priest, finds out that his niece has been taken by vampires. He wants to go out. Christopher Plummer leads this religious sect in the town, in the city, saying, vampires don't exist, you're not allowed to do this, blah 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 blah. Paul Bettany goes, I need to check into this. Well, we're going to stop you. Paul Bettany fucks them up. And defending himself, looks like kills the shit out of them. And then goes in, and the story continues from there. Now, like I said, I might have seen this film once before. I'm still debating on whether I tell this rant or not, because, you know, rant, I want to be like, this is a piece of shit. But I kind of do believe it. But is it just a bad movie, or is it a piece of shit? There's a difference. I'm like, it's bad, but I don't know. Maybe I just won't put rant, and then people could see it and find out for themselves by watching the video. The first line of dialogue is, I don't know, feels like our grave. This is Carl Urban and Paul Bettany and a few other priests go into a hive, and Carl Urban says, I don't know, feels like our grave. We didn't hear anyone ask him this, a question, or talk to him that made him say this. Like, usually when you say a sentence like that, it's because you're in the middle of a conversation. What do you think about this place? I don't know. Feels like our grave. You think this is a good place to be? I don't know. Feels like our grave. You think we should leave or get out of here? I don't know. Like, there's no first part of that conversation, so it feels very awkward to just call up and say that line as if, what did we miss a conversation? Was there something edited out? That's what I mean by that. That's how the film starts. It's literally the first 15 seconds. Carl Urban's dragged away. Then you cut this. Ideas are supposed to be live action, but the studio would not give him the budget, so the director said, hey, let me at least get this animated. And so they got one of the people that, I think the main guy, they did Samurai Jack. And with how the film is later, I don't know if it fits the Samurai Jack type of cartoon aesthetic with this stuff. I mean, it wasn't bad, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I mean, I guess if Tarantino can do it in Kill Bill Volume 1, why not this? And by this point, like, the priest had faded to obscurity. Paul Bettany's niece is taken. Blah, blah, blah. Like I said before, he goes on his merry way. Meets up with this guy. Cam Gigantic. I've seen them in other stuff. I've never been a fan. I don't think he's that good of an actor. And he talks about how he had gone to Paul Bettany before. Paul Bettany wasn't sure. But then Paul finds him and they go on their journey to find this niece. Cam, I forgot his fucking character's name. They go in a small town that he's like a sheriff at. Brad Dourif is in there. He has like 2 scenes though, and the one he's trying to sell. He's like a medicine man trying to sell this holy water, and it's bullshit. So he's told to get the hell out. And then the next time it's him seeing the villain and adios muchachos. The villain is Carl Urban. I like Carl Urban. At times it feels like he's barely in the movie, because you see him at the very beginning, and then he does pop up once in a while, but I think he was capable of having fun with this role, but he's not given much screen time to really play with that. A few times he's talking to the niece, with all these vampires attacking, music's playing, and he's doing this, like he's orchestrating it. But you don't feel, in my opinion, that big of a presence of the villain throughout this story. The only thing I could say is that I like Carl Urban as an actor, but he's definitely done much better with much more material to work with. And on their journey, Paul Bettany and the other guy, they did a few little pieces of action, which didn't do much for me. I mean, maybe the best bit was all these vampires, because they're like another creature, they look like lickers in this one scene. They look like the lickers from Resident Evil. And Paul Bettany's reading a book. This is spoilers, by the way. This is spoilers starting now. Spoilers. Paul Bettany's reading a book, and he has all these cross, but they're like ninja stars, and he's throwing them. Heavily CGI'd. Able to kill most of them, I think, except one runs off. Then asks this guy, I forget if they call him the Familiar. I keep now thinking of Blade and like the humans that work with the vampires. Here you have a group that works with the vampires, but they could be in the daylight. Paul Bettany's like, we do this the easy way, the hard way. He gets spat at. You know, I always preferred the hard way. Tries to get him to answer. They're able to get to this other place. That's where they meet Maddie Q. That's where Maddie Q and Paul Bettany fight this big creature. That again screams like out of a Doom type of video game, if that. And that's where she throws the stepping stones for him. I laughed in the movie's face, I will be honest. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then one thing leads to another, and you did to a train. And I think this will be a rant, because I would never see this film again. I think there was either a lot of problems behind the scenes or a lot of stuff cut out, because it feels all for naught. This feels like a lame pilot for a TV show that I would never watch. I'm like, I don't know, give me Brimstone any day. Or Kolchak the Night Stalker any day. They find out that these vampires are going to be on this train, and Carl Urban's leading them there, and the train's going to go into the city, and there's also this big hole in the ground that kind of has like a track to the city as well. But anyway, they're going to deal with this train. The niece is on the train, and again, super spoilers, you find out that the niece is actually Paul Bettany's daughter. Paul Bettany doesn't do a whole lot at the end. Mostly he gets his ass kicked by Carl Urban on top of the train. And not much of a good fight. If you want to fight on a train, go watch Broken Arrow with John Travolta and Christian Slater. That's how you do it. And then he gets with the one guy. They go through this train car with these like little cocoon things. That was going to be born more vampire. What the fuck it was, or was it a food supply? I'm sorry, I don't remember much of this film because that shows how fucking memorable this movie was, in my opinion. That is. And then Paul gets stabbed by Carl Urban. Carl Urban takes the girl ready to bite her, throws something at Carl Urban's neck. Carl Urban tosses the girl, Paul Bettany grabs the girl, and then they jump off. Fuck, Maddie Q does most of the work. Maddie Q is on the other side of the train on a motorcycle, and she has like 10 bad guys chasing after her. And she's fucked up most of the bikers Matrix style. Doing this, guy flies off a motorcycle, has this little chain thing wraps around a guy, pulls, and then he turned to pieces. It does the thing where it does this, and blade goes under, above her, barely misses her. Jumps off a motorcycle, doing Matrix type maneuvers. And she's the one who sets up the bomb to go towards the train, and then jumps off so that the whole train blows up, which then results in Carl Urban blowing up. So fuck, Maddie Q did more than Paul Bettany. I just say Paul Bettany at least got the niece, his daughter out, stabbed Carl Urban in the neck so he would be stunned for a bit. I just say as a distraction for Maddie Q to do that, so I guess I can't really say he did nothing, to be fair. It's just that I felt like Maddie Q was more badass than Paul Bettany in this third act. That's just the feeling I got. And of course it sets itself up for a franchise. Paul Bettany comes in with proof. Even though for some reason they don't believe him. I still don't know why Christopher Plummer does not... There's a vampire's head right there, but he's like, I don't believe you. I mean, I know Christopher Plummer's character is... Rest in peace, Christopher Plummer. But I know he's acting like a dick, but why is it that they're so adamant to not believe in him? Why? Is someone in there secretly working with the vampires, or... That never comes into play. It's never really explained why the religious higher-ups are so adamant, even with proof on there. And Paul Bettany has one of those lines he's given. The war's over. No, it's just beginning. And then pretty much says goodbye to Maddie Q, says goodbye to the others, rides off to the sequel that never happened, to kill more vampires. Just, if they could survive, there's more that are out there. You know, in the world when you watch Blade or Blade 2, hell, the other day I just saw Day Shift with Jamie Foxx. That's a very fun vampire action movie. Much better than this. John Carpenter's Vampires, The Lost Boys, Full Eclipse. That's a vampire action movie that's actually decently underrated. Directed by the same guy who did Waxwork, Waxwork 2, Hellraiser 3, Anthony Hitchcock's. Full Eclipse, that deserves a Blu-ray. That's a pretty fun cop vampire movie. No, it was a werewolves. I think it's werewolves. I get confused because at first it seems like they're vampires, but they're werewolves actually. That's a werewolf movie, so that's out of the conversation. It's werewolves. But you know what? Action and supernatural, Full Eclipse is still worth the watch. And yeah, it's werewolves, not vampires. See, that's what this movie does. It fucks me up. But even as werewolves, I still recommend Full Eclipse. I recommend Lost Boys. I recommend Day Shift that came out. There's a lot better ones out there. And for sure, I tip that your vampire action films. Now they do werewolf action films like in Late Phases has some action and it's a better movie than this. Dog Soldiers, which I would like to get that 4K of Second Sight, maybe one day. Sorry, I'm going over the place. Because, like I said, when you look at the action, there's not a whole lot to run home about. Unless you like the underworld, bit of Matrix type of style of action. I'm like, yeah, I liked it when it was done in the Matrix trilogy. Because there is no fourth film to me. But when everybody else tried to do it, whether it be Bulletproof Monk or a film like this and stuff, just didn't quite work. The unrated cut, I mean, yeah, you get some more CGI blood. Yeah. Carl Urban, it's not even much to do as a villain, even though he's a good actor. Just not even much to do. Because he feels like he doesn't have much screen time. It's kind of like what happened with, funny enough, Christian Bale in the new Thor film. So I would not be surprised if a lot of his stuff was cut out. Like what happened to Christian Bale in that new shitty Thor one. Thor 4. Paul Bettany, I think he got a raw deal. He picked the wrong director to work with to be a star. This guy, Scott Stewart. Just 2 films, and I don't know if that really helped his career, being in Legion and Priest. You tell me. Didn't care for his butt buddy that rode along. Like I said, all I didn't appreciate is that it was short. Paul Bettany. Maggie Q, I don't mind her. Nice on the eyes. Did not give him much to do, but she has a good bit of a presence to her compared to other actors in this movie. Brad Dourif, it's sad he's only in 2 scenes. Again, kind of a... I guess I read somewhere he was supposed to be the one vampires to fight in the 3rd act, but I guess he really didn't have time. He was only there for like 2 days or something for some scheduling, so it had to be this way. I don't know why you wouldn't work that out before you do the movie, but well, maybe they did, and he's like, I could do 2 days, and it's like, okay, fine, I'll change it. The niece, Bettany's niece, she's captured. She cries. There you go, that's it. Christopher Plummer, can't even say his name right. Christopher Plummer. To, nope, you cannot go. Kind of the Big Brother, 1984, which is the very beginning. Paul Bettany's doing confessional, and it's like Big Brother talks to you, but he isn't really talking to you, but this time it's Christopher Plummer, much more religious. And that's the thing, it just reminds you of 1984, Blade Runner type of in the city. Underworld, a little bit of Matrix stuff out there. And if you want to see vampire action, go watch Blade and Blade 2. That is a lot better. There's just not much to run home about, to be fair. Maybe you'll see it, you'll think it's just a time waster. To me, it's just a waste of timer. So we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.